Chapter 1 My Stupid Oudouyou. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It was midsummer. The cicadas were buzzing like crazy in the trees. Underneath one of them, a 3-year-old sat on a big rock, gazing up at the clear sky. Sunlight dappled through the leaves, landing on the child's face. He squinted, making a little tch sound, and shielded his eyes with his hands. Shifting on the rock, he kept staring up. He tried to raise a hand to block the sun, but seemed to think better of it. Letting his arm drop, he mumbled, "So, starting today, I, Umino Kakugi, have a little brother." "Man, you're such a dork, Oudouyou." With that, Kakugi glanced over at his father, Umino Ikkaku, pacing anxiously at the door, and rolled his eyes. "Dad, chill out. Mom and the baby are gonna be fine." Yeah, don't worry, Kakumu," his father replied. "Your mom's okay, and your brother's gonna be super cute." He sounded both worried and annoyed and tried to reassure his son, thinking he was just concerned. "You go play, little Kakumu. Daddy's busy." Kakugi scowled. He hated being treated like a little kid. After all, inside that 3-year-old body was the soul of a 20-year-old. In his past life, Umino Tsunoki was a simple orphan, growing up in an orphanage. He barely made it through college, landed a job, and got his first taste of the real world when a dump truck ran him over one day. He woke up as a newborn baby. At first, he thought he'd been reborn in Japan, but as he got older, he went out with his parents and saw ninjas leaping across rooftops and running with their arms straight back in the Hokage rock in the village. That's when he realized he'd time-traveled to the world of Naruto. The realization hit him. With a father named Umino Ikkaku and a mother named Umino Koizumi, he was Iruka, Umino's older brother. Maybe his time travel caused a butterfly effect. The Umino couple, who originally only had one son, Iruka, created him first. Kakugi worried constantly that he might erase Iruka from existence. He was relieved when his mother got pregnant again, even though it wouldn't be his fault if his parents decided against having kids because of him. Kakugi would still feel a twinge of regret if Umino Iruka never existed. Even guilt. Kakugi was an orphan. He loved having a real family in this world. But as a time traveler, he always felt out of place. Like now, his father was nervously waiting by the door, while he sat on a rock under a tree, staring up at the sky through the leaves. "Wah!" A loud cry broke the silence. Umino's eyes lit up as he paced back and forth. The door swung open. The midwife smiled reassuringly, holding her arms out slightly. "Umino-san," she said, relieved, "your wish has come true." Umino brushed past her, knocking her off balance without even noticing. He rushed inside, yelling, "Koizumi! Koizumi! I'm here." Kakugi chuckled at his father's recklessness, then went to help the midwife, carefully dusting off her clothes. He asked about his mother and new brother. The midwife, recovering quickly, playfully poked Kakugi's cheek. "Don't worry, kiddo. Your mom's fine. You've got a baby brother now." "Really?" Kakugi exhaled, his fists finally unclenched. From inside the house, his father shouted, "Ha ha ha. Another son. The Umino family is thriving." "Thank you, Koizumi." Umino Ikkaku emerged, beaming as he cradled the baby. "I've got a name picked out. Iruka." "Ha ha ha." Yes, he had a little brother, and his name was Umino Iruka. His brother's name would always remind Kakugi that he had lived 2 lives and was now in the world of Naruto. Here were his biological parents, his little brother, and his home. His dad was still carrying on inside, punctuated by his mother's gentle scolding. Kakugi chuckled and went inside to see his new sibling. "My dorky little brother." Kakugi grinned, rubbing his hands together, his eyes sparkling. "My sweet little brother, why are you crying again?" Kakugi held the adorable Iruka, gently rocking him back and forth. His smile faltered, and the sparkle faded from his eyes. "I won't call you a dork anymore, just please stop crying, okay?" On the verge of a meltdown, Kakugi suddenly realized Iruka might be hungry. He carefully laid Iruka in the cradle and scrambled to get a bottle, mix formula, and prepare the milk. He looked at Iruka, who was still happily sucking on the bottle. Ignoring the sweet smile on his baby face, he groaned, "Where is Dad? When is he coming home?" A year flashed by. The 4-year-old Umino Kakugi didn't start refining chakra at 3, learn the 3-body technique at 4, or master shadow clones at 5, like in most time travel stories, he had asked his parents to teach him. But they told him that refining chakra before the age of 6 would negatively impact his development, so Kakugi had no choice but to wait. Now 4 years old, his main job, aside from learning calligraphy at home, was babysitting. His mother, Umino Koizumi, was a jonin in the village's barrier unit. Her main job was maintaining Konoha's protective barrier and monitoring for any attacks. Because of her busy schedule and dedication to Konoha, she went back to work immediately after maternity leave. He usually only saw her when she was on rotation. His father, Umino Kazuo, was a leading jonin in the village, currently leading a 3-man genin squad fresh out of the academy. He spent most of his time in the village, and usually had a shadow clone at home to watch the kids, but he also took on missions outside the village. They worked so hard because the Umino family lived in a 2-story house in the center of the village. It wasn't like building a house on the outskirts or living in a dorm. To buy a house in this neighborhood, you had to have money, and they were still paying off the mortgage. So, there were times when Dad was on a mission and Mom was on duty, leaving just Kakugi and his little brother, Iruka, at home, and now, that situation was happening, when his mother hadn't come home for 3 days and his father's shadow clone had disappeared. Umino Kakugi knew what he was in for. Seriously, he was still just a baby himself. Umino Kakugi wanted to cry, but he was all cried out. Iruka's parents. Chapter 2 Enrollment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hey, wanna play war, big bro? Little Iruka, bursting with energy, bounced up early to find his brother. He clutched a wooden sword in one hand and tugged on Katamu's clothes with the other, his voice all whiny and sweet. Wow, time really flies. A year zipped by, and little Iruka's 2 now, while Kazuoki's already 5. Kakugi watched his little brother playing with the wooden sword. Even though Iruka was only 2, he couldn't help but feel like, man, I've got a daughter already. Finally off the teat, Iruka. Kakugi crouched down, looked Iruka right in the eye, and gave his forehead a gentle flick. Ow! Iruka yelped, covering his head, his little lips pouting, tears welling up. Hey! What was that for? Kakugi chuckled, brushing away the sleep from Iruka's eyes. He covered Iruka's forehead with his hand. Sorry, Iruka, can't play today. Forgive me, okay? Last time, promise. With a quick spin, Kazuoki headed to his room, leaving Iruka to rub his forehead and mumble something like, jerk brother. Kazuoki really didn't have time for games today. Today was his big day. Umino Kazuoki was starting Ninja Academy. Umino Kazuoki, who was supposed to start training with chakra at 6, was now going to school at 5. Simple reason, the ninja world was gearing up for war. The hidden cloud, sand, and stone villages were all making moves, and intel pointed to active war preparations, so, Konoha was speeding up its own ninja training, naturally. Today was the new admissions day, and since they lowered the age to 5, the crowd outside the academy was thicker than usual, packed, bustling, everyone shoulder to shoulder. Umino Kakugi was surrounded by his dad, Umino Ikkaku, and his mom, Umino Koni, who took the day off, and little Iruka, still clinging to his clothes. A rare family outing. Honestly, with his parents so busy, little Iruka was way closer to his older brother. As the family approached the academy gates, faces popped out that he knew without having to be told who they were, like Ebisu, already rocking shades like a little dude, and Shiranu Iganma, always with that toothpick, Senbon, in his mouth. Noera Rin's pretty face had those 2 square patches of paint on her cheeks. Sarutobi Asuma and Yuhi Kurinai were already attached at the hip. Even back then, Enko Matarai was already sporting revealing mesh and fishnets. Then there was Kakashi Hatake, with his spiky white hair and mask, just those dead fish eyes showing. Most eye-catching of all was a father and son duo in matching green jumpsuits, yelling and crying in front of the supplemental admissions posting on the wall. No doubt about it, that was Might Dai and Might Guy. Couldn't miss them. Those guys were like spotlights in the dark. He remembered there being a lot of Kakashi's classmates from the original series. Kakugi scanned the crowd, spotting Yamashiro Aoba, Namashi Reidu, Marino Ibiki, Moonlight Hay-8, and a few others. Wait a sec. Kakugi looked around, realizing something was missing. Where was Uchiha Obito? And where was his system? What? Obito was helping an old lady cross the street. Oh, alright then. Kazuoki waved goodbye to his family and headed into the school with the other kids. A bunch of noisy kids waited on the playground for the opening ceremony, buzzing with excitement, nerves, and a little fear. Kakumu, though, stayed calm. Letting 5-year-olds into Ninja Academy a year early meant they'd graduate a year early, contributing to Konoha's forces sooner. Plus, the war hadn't really kicked off yet. Once it did, they might shorten the academy even more, maybe even let kids graduate 2 or 3 years early. While the leaves dance, the fire burns. This fire illuminates our village and allows new leaves to sprout. And you, here today, are those new leaves. I believe you will grow into towering trees, sheltering and protecting Konoha. This is the will of fire. The third Hokage, still in his prime, stood at the podium, preaching the will of fire to the new students. Kakumu pretended to listen, but his mind was a million miles away. Back in his previous life, his boss gave speeches all the time. He was so over it, looking at the other kids, practically weeping with emotion during the Sandaime speech. Kakumu just sighed and zoned out again. No wonder the third Hokage, so busy, still made time for these ceremonies. You don't know until you've been there. The opening ceremony ended, and Kakumu followed the other students off the playground to find his assigned class. He staked out a seat by the window in the back row, taking a good look at his classmates. After a while, Kakugi didn't spot Might Guy, Kakashi, or Noara Rin. He did see Mitarai Anko, Marino Ibiki, and Moonlight Hay-8, so they must be in different classes. Bang, the classroom door flew open, slamming against the wall. The noise caught Kazuoki's attention. A kid with goggles and a ping-pong paddle strapped to his back stumbled in, out of breath and bowing deeply. Sorry, sensei. I'm Uchiha Obito from Class A. Sorry I'm late. The classroom went quiet for a second, then burst into laughter. Stuff like what a dork, couldn't even read the room. And who cares who you are? Flew around, especially from Moonlight Hay-8, who was nearly coughing up a lung from laughing. The room filled with a sense of joy. Obito Uchiha looked up, face beet red, and saw the empty podium and the Class B sign on the door. He probably wanted to dig himself to China. He was gone in a flash. Guess the Uchiha genius genes kicked in. The class erupted in laughter again. Anyway, I'm a transmigrator, right? So where's my system? Kakugi calculated the time. He'd been in the Naruto world for 5 years and still hadn't seen the system's shadow. Maybe his system, like Obito, was just running late. Chapter 3. The system finally arrived. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The teacher, wearing a vest, opened the door and briefly introduced himself as our homeroom teacher for the next few years before starting class. The first lesson was about chakra extraction. I snapped to attention, knowing I needed to listen up. With no cheat codes in sight, mastering ninja skills was the only way to survive in this crazy world. Chakra is essential for us ninjas. It's a type of energy hidden within the human body, a combination of physical and spiritual energy. Sensing this energy and extracting chakra for the first time takes patience. I got into a meditative pose, holding my breath and concentrating, trying to focus inward, to sense and activate the spiritual energy in my mind and combine it with the physical energy in my body, following the teacher's instructions. This step was supposed to be the hardest. Suddenly, it felt like a light bulb went off in my brain, and I instantly sensed the spiritual energy inside me. Like an endless ocean, I was caught off guard when a rush of heat surged from my heart, like an inexhaustible spring, soon forming a vast lake. I quickly mixed the gushing physical energy with the spiritual energy in my mind. The two pools of energy flowed together, becoming indistinguishable and merging into one. My consciousness felt like a lone boat on a boundless sea. This sea flowed along the meridians in my body to my limbs, a river of chakra constantly rushing through me. I couldn't believe I'd extracted chakra on my first try. I felt a little lucky, and sighed in relief, since I had no idea what my ninja aptitude would be. Looks like I'm at least decent in the chakra department. I now understood what the teacher meant when he said, everyone's chakra capacity is different, but it's basically fixed. As of right now, that was my chakra limit, and it would only change as I aged, with the natural increase of mental and physical energy that came with physical development. Older ninjas past their 30s would gradually see their chakra levels decline as their bodies and minds aged. The amount of chakra a ninja possesses depends on their natural talent. That's just the way it is. In the ninja world, genius is genius. If you want to beat the odds, you might need to rely on technology and hard work. Looking at my massive amount of chakra, was I also a bit of a genius? I was lost in thought when suddenly, ding! Ding! Everything can be copied. System activated. Ding! Extraordinary energy detected in the host's body. System officially activated. System successfully bound, function successfully activated, personal panel generated. A system. The system I'd been waiting for finally arrived. I tried to calm myself and carefully examined the system. Personal panel, host, Umino Tsunoki, overall combat power, chakra capacity, 1 card, attributes, wind, water, young, number of copies, 1. That I really was a bit of a genius. I immediately noticed the chakra capacity of 1 card and couldn't help but feel smug. Even though Kakashi always seems like he's running on empty, his chakra reserves are relatively small for a jonin. It's even been reduced to the system's chakra measurement unit. Still, you can't underestimate Kakashi. He's still jonin level, and I'm only 5 years old with a chakra capacity of 1 card. I suppressed my excitement and kept exploring the system. I learned that the system's core function was copying, including, but not limited to, skills, ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, chakra attributes, mastery, nature and form changes, chakra capacity, physical talents, and even bloodline limits. Copying required selecting a target. Copying was guaranteed, but the skills copied were completely random. Random meant that it could copy the target's ninjutsu and combat skills, but it could also copy something like cooking skills. For example, if I chose Jiraiya as my target, I might end up with Sage Mode from Mount Mayaboku, or I might get his terrible pickup lines. The only way to copy other people's skills was through combat. Whether I won or lost, I could copy the target's skills, but what I got was anyone's guess, and I only had 1 copy chance per day. The system also had a detection function that displayed other people's overall combat power and attributes, which should make it easier to choose targets for copying during battle. Unfortunately, the system didn't display my own skills. I'll need to explore them in battle. I focused my eyes on the teacher at the podium, and a few lines of text appeared in my vision. Name, Yamada Ino, overall combat power, C. Chakra capacity, 0.7 cards, attribute, Earth. Based on the data, our homeroom teacher was a run-of-the-mill chunin. A chakra capacity of 0.7 cards was standard for a chunin. He only had 1 attribute, so he probably didn't have any family secrets or bloodline limits. He probably only knew the basics from the Ninja Academy and a few ninjutsu he got through achievements. Ninjas with family secrets or bloodline limits were usually elites among ninjas of the same rank. Ninja families with secret techniques or bloodline limits could give their children a better upbringing and also teach them techniques or bloodline powers that ordinary ninjas couldn't access. The Umino family wasn't really a ninja clan. My parents were both from ordinary backgrounds. They'd reached the jonin level through hard work and accomplishments. It wasn't as good as being from a ninja clan, but it was still better than being from an ordinary background. Jonin parents could give their children a far better ninja education than ordinary people, like ninjutsu that civilian-born ninjas had to pay dearly for. I was actually much luckier than most ninjas from civilian families, but the adult Iruka Umino from the original story was a bit of a pushover. That was because his parents had died during the Ninetales attack before he even graduated from the Ninja Academy. Now that I'd become the son of the Umino family, I couldn't let that tragedy happen again. I silently set my first small goal. Chapter 4 Going Home. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As soon as the bell rang, the kids burst out of class, buzzing with excitement about their first day at the ninja school. Kakugi's house wasn't far, and he was determined to walk home by himself, so he waved off his parents' offer to pick him up. Bro, you're back. That the moment he walked in, his younger brother, Iruka, launched himself into Kakugi's arms like a little bowling ball. Kakugi instinctively caught him in a tight hug. Hey, buddy, he said, ruffling Iruka's hair. Why aren't you playing with your friends? Nope. Iruka grinned, looking up at him. I was waiting outside for you. Was school awesome? My big brother's a real ninja now. Iruka's eyes were wide with admiration. Huh, you'll see when you go to school, Iruka. Why can't you tell me now? Iruka puffed out his cheeks. Because if I tell you now, it won't be as cool when you find out yourself. Ha ha ha. He 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 he. The two brothers dissolved in laughter. Holding Iruka close, Kakugi pushed open the door. A familiar, home-cooked aroma filled his nostrils. He sniffed deeply. Mom was cooking. Under the warm glow of the kitchen light, his mother was busy preparing dinner, while his father was parked on the couch, lost in a newspaper. Not that Umino Ikkaku didn't want to lend a hand, but he'd been politely asked to leave the kitchen shortly after trying to help. Mom had practically shoved the newspaper into his hands, so, he sat there, pretending to read, but his eyes kept darting towards the door, clearly waiting for his son to get home. Only after Kakugi and Iruka showed up did Umino Kazuo finally relax. Unbeknownst to Kakugi, the moment he'd hugged Iruka at the doorstep, a shadow clone that had been keeping watch vanished into thin air. As soon as he saw them, Dad leaped up from the couch and barreled towards the two brothers. Iruka instantly jumped from Kakugi's arms into his father's, and Kakugi, trying to duck out of the way, got caught in a bear hug too. Ha ha ha. Dad roared, happily messing up Kakugi's hair. Trying to escape your old man's love, huh? Honestly, even though Kakugi had gotten used to his parents and brother over his 2 lifetimes, his mature mind still struggled with his dad's over-the-top childish antics. That's why he'd pretty much avoided playing any ninja games. He just wasn't into that kind of stuff, which probably explained why Kakugi hadn't really had any friends before ninja school. His dad probably thought he was withdrawn, so he was trying to get him to loosen up with these father-son moments. Since both parents were actually home tonight, Kakugi took the opportunity to check out their stats. Name, Umino Ikkaku, overall combat strength, A. Chakra level, 2.9 calories. Attributes, water, thunder, yang. Name, Umino Xiaojin, overall combat strength, A. Chakra level, 1.3 calories. Attributes, wind, fire, yin. No surprises there. Both his parents were Jonin, so an A rating made sense, so, A level must be Jonin. That Chunin teacher he'd seen at school was a C, so B was probably special Jonin, and D was Genin. Kakugi figured he was an E right now, just a regular student. Naruto, on the other hand, was probably at least S. He hadn't seen enough people's stats to be sure, but he'd get a better sense of it as time went on. Still, it was weird that his gentle mom had wind and fire attributes, while his steady dad had water and thunder. Maybe chakra attributes didn't really have anything to do with personality. Also, judging by their chakra levels, even a Jonin had more chakra than Kakashi. Dad's chakra was a whopping 2.9 calories. Kakugi guessed that the yang attribute probably had something to do with it. He had the yang attribute too, so maybe he'd end up with just as much chakra as Umino Ikkaku when he grew up. Plus, he had a system on his side. Dinner's ready, you two. Mom announced, setting out the dishes. Dad and the boys rushed over to help. Tonight, Mom had cooked up a storm. The table was piled high. Kakugi caught a whiff of the long-missed aromas, took one look at all the food, and quickly tilted his head back to keep from crying. Iruka followed suit, tears welling up in his eyes. The two brothers exchanged a knowing look and nodded emphatically. Finally, they didn't have to eat instant noodles with Dad. Whenever Mom was away, the two of them were stuck with their dad's cooking, which basically meant endless fast food, instant noodles, ramen, and various pre-made sides. Poor little Iruka had to wait until Dad was on a mission to get a break, only to be stuck with his brother's fast food alternatives, instant noodles, ramen, and various pre-made sides. It was great to have a mom. Mom tilted her head, looking at her son's weird behavior with a puzzled expression. What's wrong, Kakugi? Iruka. Don't you like it? No, no. Mom's cooking is the best. Then. She looked at Dad with a raised eyebrow, knowing he was on the hook. Dad awkwardly busied himself, saying, "Nothing, the kids are just happy to see you, he 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 he." Mom smiled at her husband and sons. After dinner, Mom called her husband and sons, who were eager to do the dishes. She took a deep breath, and said, "I've decided to apply for a ninja retirement at the barrier class tomorrow." Dad was surprised, then said, "Xiaozhen, this isn't like you." He was used to his wife being ambitious. "But it's okay. Xiaozhen, it's good for you to rest at home. Besides," Ikkaku thought for a moment, "our mortgage loan is actually only a few years old. Counting the family's savings, I can do it alone. Besides, the children love their mother the most." Seeing her husband's understanding, Xiaozhen smiled with relief. "Besides, if the mother is not at home, the children will be so pitiful." Xiaozhen silently hid the second half of what she did not say. "Iruka, whose father, mother and brother are not at home, is so pitiful." Hooray! Iruka, the first to react, threw himself into Xiaozhen's arms and shouted happily, looking at his gentle mother, reliable father, and lovely younger brother. Kakugi smiled warmly, took the initiative to step forward, and hugged his parents and younger brother. Chapter 5 Ninja School Battle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the blink of an eye, a year flew by, and all the ninja school students had learned chakra extraction. Besides teaching chakra control right from the start, the school gradually introduced basic taijutsu, shuriken throwing, kunai usage, and cultural classes. They also covered basic arithmetic, the science of poisons, and battlefield first aid. The most emphasized part of the cultural curriculum was the will of fire. Kakugi worked hard this year, but his grades were just average. His cultural classes were only okay, and his ninjutsu and throwing skills were pretty standard. His teacher thought Kakugi's only real strength was his natural fighting ability. Despite being an average student in terms of grades, he always did well in the school's practice battles. He held his own against clan prodigies like Heiei Gecko and Anko Mitarashi, and he never lost to other regular students. This likely had something to do with Kakugi's behavior. Umino Kakugi was known as a sparring maniac around the ninja school. He jumped into every practice battle and sparred with his classmates at least once a day. He challenged anyone, stronger or weaker, from his class or any other. Today was the final exam for the year. To better assess the class's progress, Mr. Yamada Ino, the homeroom teacher of Class B, decided to organize a competition against Class A. They usually only sparred within their own class, but this was a Class B versus Class A showdown. Time to see what they're really made of. Yamada Ino thought, standing beside Akiyama Shinsuke, Class A's homeroom teacher, as they took turns calling out their students. The two teachers were secretly sizing each other up, their eyes meeting in brief, intense glances. Class A, Donna Kimaru, step up. Class B, Shiya Yamamoto, get out there. That the two young ninjas faced each other and made the sign of confrontation. A tense silence fell over the grounds. Katamu yawned, watching the rookies peck at each other. Host, Umino Tsunoki, overall combat power, D. Chakra level, 1.2 calories. Attributes, wind, water, yang. Copies, 1. Over the year, Umino Kakugi had sparred with many of his classmates, selectively choosing opponents based on their strengths and weaknesses. The strongest he'd beaten was Asuma Sarutobi from Class A. Before that fight, Kakugi had stared enviously at Asuma's fire attribute chakra. He finally beat Asuma and got something about basic smoking. A few days later, Kazuoki asked Asuma for a rematch. After the war, he once again mentioned basic smoking. Kakugi kept asking Asuma for pointers. Asuma, feeling the pressure, sought help from his dad, the third Hokage, to improve his ninja skills. Kakugi soon realized Asuma was getting harder and harder to beat. He no longer had to worry about throwing the fight to keep a low profile. Now it was all he could do to survive, and all he was getting after the fight was basic chakra control and basic seals. Plus, mostly smoker stuff. Then, one day, his basic smoking evolved to basic smoking. Kakugi learned that the skills he copied could be used again, and that skills could gradually accumulate to evolve into high-level skills. Later, after copying basic beauty makeup from Anko Mitarashi, Kakugi felt calm in his heart, but there had been surprises. He even gained a share of chakra after sparring with Hayate Gecko. The copied chakra wasn't the full amount, just a tiny piece, but even that was enough for Kakumu. If these small gains kept adding up, he'd eventually become a tailless beast. Apparently, you can't milk just one sheep. Kakugi tried not to draw too much attention to himself. While he fought both regular students and clan ninjas to copy skills, he always controlled the outcome when fighting the clan prodigies, balancing wins and losses. He didn't want to end up in the meat grinder of a battlefield too soon. It would be best to wait until graduation. The battlefield would definitely speed up his growth, but wouldn't it be better to chill at ease if you have a system by your side that can make steady progress? Why should a 6-year-old risk his life on the battlefield? Over the past year, aside from the Ishido lamp array barrier technique that he'd bugged his mother to teach him, all his other skills came from the ninja school, learned and copied from his classmates. Besides a few life skills, most of his copies were taijutsu, physical skills, and throwing techniques. Kakugi's taijutsu had already reached the primary level. Throwing hadn't advanced yet, but it should happen soon. There was no level indicator for the three-body technique, but judging from his faster, more proficient hand seals and the increasingly solid clones, it was constantly improving as well. The young ninjas on the field were still fighting hard. Class A was living up to its reputation, with much better average skill than Class B. Class B had only won one match but lost several. Akiyama Shinsuke, Class A's homeroom teacher, was beaming. Yamada Ino looked increasingly grim. Each grade in the ninja school had over a dozen classes, with Class A and Class B being two of the elite ones. There was always some difference between the two classes, but the scale of the loss was something that Yamada Ino felt bad about. The competition on the field was winding down. As expected, Class B lost another round, sending cheers rippling through Class A's ranks. After Akiyama Shinsuke and Yamada Ino briefly confirmed that the students hadn't been injured, they prepared for the next match. Akiyama Shinsuke stepped forward. Class A, Kakashi Hatake, step up. Murmurs spread through Class A, and Class B exclaimed in surprise. During his year at the ninja school, Kakashi Hatake had become a legend. He was at the top of his class in every subject, from cultural studies to physical training, throwing, and ninjutsu. He came from a famous family and was the son of Tsukumo Hatake, a renowned elite jonin of the village. At only 6 years old, Kakashi Hatake had already amassed a large fan base in the ninja school. Crap. Yamada Ino knew none of his students could stand a chance against Kakashi, the top genius. He was about to pick someone to take the fall when he spotted someone who looked like he was spacing out. It was Kakugi. Class B, Umino Kakugi, step up. There's your chance, you little sparring maniac. Thank your teacher for giving you this opportunity. Yamada Ino smiled, full of evil. Chapter 6 Battle against Hatake Kakashi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What the? Kazuoki, looking totally bummed, shuffled onto the field. Seeing Kakashi Hatake across from him, radiating energy, only made him more despondent. Unlike the fight with Asuma, where he had to deliberately mess up, this time he genuinely wasn't sure he could win. According to the ninja system's power rankings, most Ninja Academy students are somewhere around E to E+. My Chunin instructor, Yamada Ino, is a C, and my Jonin parents are an A. With a solid foundation and 1.2 carats of chakra, I'm only a D, so D is basically Genin level, C is Chunin. And B to A is Jonin and up, and Kakashi, standing right there, is a C-. Name, Hatake Kakashi, overall power, C-, chakra level, 0.6. Elements, fire, wind, lightning, earth, water, yang, yin. Seriously? Kakugi thought. This is a 6-year-old. Every single element. Kakashi's a true prodigy, dude. You could be taking the Chunin exams with those skills. What are you even doing in the academy? Seeing Kazuoki's glum face, Kakashi tilted his head. So, this is our first time going head-to-head, Umino Kazuoki, the sparring fanatic. Why haven't you ever asked me to spar? Kakashi doesn't really like pointless fights, especially since he deals with Might Guy's challenges every single day. still, he was curious why a sparring addict like Kazuoki had never come after him. You can copy Kakashi's moves whether you win or lose, but who wants to get beat up? Kazuoki kept quiet. Afraid? Kakashi seemed to get it. He looked a little disappointed. The words were quiet, but Kazuoki heard them loud and clear. It was like a jolt of electricity, snapping him awake. Afraid? No way. I'm not afraid of Kakashi. Kakashi's a leaf ninja like me, and I know how the story goes. I can't be afraid of Kakashi. That's it, I'm not afraid of Kakashi. I'm afraid of losing. I'm afraid of losing, so I always pick fights with weaker ninjas. I'm afraid of copying useless skills, so I haven't bothered with a Soma or Anko. I'm afraid of losing to Kakashi, and I don't want to take the hits even if I copy something. I don't want to, no, I don't dare fight Kakashi. Kazuoki had an epiphany. The person I should be scared of is myself. If Kakashi hadn't called him out, he would have become a timid, spineless coward. Kazuoki straightened up, looked Kakashi in the eye for the first time, made the ready seal, and grinned. Here I come, Kakashi. He dashed forward, throwing a volley of shurikens. Kakashi quickly dodged a few, then drew his ninja blade to deflect the rest. Clang, steel met steel. They locked blades for a moment, then leaped back and charged again. Even with basic taijutsu skills, Kazuoki felt the immense force coming from Kakashi. He's way stronger than me. I can't keep this up. Kakashi was slowly pushing his kunai aside. As a last resort, Kazuoki gripped the kunai with both hands, trying to push back. Gotcha. Kakashi, holding his ninja blade with his right hand, saw his opening and landed a solid punch to Kazuoki's face. TCH. Kazuoki put everything he had into forcing Kakashi's blade back. He twisted his body and threw a left kick. Kakashi, with the pressure from Kazuoki's push, dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding the kick, and followed up with a right leg sweep aimed at Kazuoki's waist. Too slow. Before Kazuoki could pull his leg back, he threw out a hand seal. Kakashi was caught completely off guard and sent flying a meter by Kakashi's leg sweep. Before Kakashi hit the ground, the familiar poof sound signaled that he was replaced by a log. Gotcha. Kazuoki appeared behind Kakashi, kunai in hand. Kakashi dodged and turned to face him with his blade. Kakashi's white Fang-style swordplay was sharp and dangerous. Kazuoki jumped back to avoid another close-quarters fight. No way was he getting that close again after getting his butt kicked in taijutsu. Retreating, Kazuoki pulled out a large shuriken and launched it at Kakashi. This shuriken barrage was even worse than the first one. Kakashi dodged effortlessly and lunged at Kazuoki. Kazuoki was furious, stomped, and retreated while desperately fighting Kakashi, eventually leading Kakashi to chase, and soon enough Kazuoki was running around the edge of the field. They traded another blow. Kazuoki leaped back, fingers flying in a hand sign, and used the shadow clone jutsu. Two clones charged at Kakashi. Using the distraction, Kazuoki dashed back to the center of the field. Boring, Kakashi said. He was already tired of this hit-and-run game and wanted to end it fast. He plunged his ninja blade into the ground, bit his thumb, and rapidly weaved a series of seals, crouching down and slamming his right hand onto the ground to activate his technique. Summoning jutsu. Wait, that's not Kakashi, it's Kazuoki. Kazuoki knelt, weaving seals. Mysterious lines appeared beneath him, forming a circle. Dark lines shot out from the circle, tethering Kakashi. You're not going anywhere. Kakashi, about to summon a ninja hound, was frozen, his right hand reaching awkwardly for the ground, unable to touch it. That's the Ishido lantern array. It's not a high-level technique, but only students with a natural talent for sealing can learn it. Yamada Ino told the other students, impressed. Well done, Akiyama Shinsuke agreed. He secretly left chakra markers around the field, used the shadow clones to confuse Kakashi, then quickly moved into position and activated his jutsu before Kakashi could use his own. Excellent battle instincts. Kakashi remembered Kazuoki stomping his feet anxiously on the field earlier. Was that how he left the chakra marks? Chapter 7 White Fang Knife Technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I was careless. Right after the fight started, I underestimated Kakugi. That's how I messed up and lost. I need to complete the jutsu, at least. Kakashi thought, channeling more chakra and pushing down hard with his right hand, trying to break free. Sensing Kakashi's struggle, Kakugi instantly increased his chakra output. Ugh. Kakashi strained, but after all that effort, he was still stuck, his palms nowhere near the ground. Heh. Kakugi thought, smirking. When it came to chakra control, he was the best in the academy. With his chakra reserves, holding down Kakashi, with half as much, was no sweat. Wait, Kakashi's trying to summon something, isn't he? If he calls in a ninja hound to track me, that's gonna be a real problem. So, Kakashi, stay put. Sensing Kakashi trying to break free again, Kakugi poured on even more chakra, a drop of sweat trickled down Kakashi's face. He hadn't expected that even with all his chakra, he couldn't budge. This Kakugi was tougher than he looked. For a moment, nothing happened. The user of the Ichido light formation has to stay put while the technique's active. And Kakugi isn't good enough to do hand seals with one hand, so he can't even throw a shuriken at Kakashi. As for Kakashi, he was totally pinned. It was like Shikamaru's Chunin exam fights. Except Shikamaru could make his opponents smack themselves against the wall. Alright, Shinsuke Akiyama said, seeing Kakashi pushing himself too hard. He stepped in to stop the match. Overdoing it like that wouldn't be good for Kakashi, who still wasn't fully grown. I declare Umino Kakugi the winner. Akiyama Shinsuke announced loudly, and Class B erupted in cheers. Some students in Class A looked thoughtful, while others were confused. Seeing their puzzled faces, Shinsuke Akiyama explained, even though they were at a standstill, in a real fight, Kakugi would have teammates to back him up, and the battle would have ended quickly. So, never underestimate your opponent. And always value your teammates. Out there, you depend on each other. Yeah, Kakashi said, meeting Akiyama Shinsuke's gaze. He sat down, panting, his mask drenched in sweat. As soon as the results were announced, Kakugi released the jutsu. He walked over to Kakashi and held out his hand. Kakashi took it and stood up. He looked at Kakugi, a mix of emotions in his eyes. You're strong. You too, Kakugi replied with a smile, thinking, thanks, Kakashi. Thanks for reminding me, star. They made the sign of reconciliation. Back with his team, Kakugi got a hard pat on the back. Enko Mitarashi slapped Kakugi's shoulder casually, laughing. Kakugi, you beat Kakashi Hatake. Looks like you've got some skills. We should spar sometime. Yeah, Kakugi's Ichido light formation was perfectly timed. A great fight, Marino Ibiki, who was normally so serious, agreed. Huh, just got lucky, Kakugi replied, smiling. I've beaten you plenty of times, Kakugi, Enko Mitarashi said, raising an eyebrow. Maybe I could take down that stuck-up Kakashi too. It doesn't exactly work like that, Enko, Heiate Gecko said, coughing. Kakugi looked at him sympathetically. Seeing the eagerness in Enko Mitarashi's eyes, Kakugi decided to jump in. How about we go at it after school? Now that he had won, Kakugi wasn't afraid of any challenge. You're on. Mitarashi Enko replied. Meanwhile, Akiyama Shinsuke was about to call out the next match when a hyperactive kid with a spiky haircut, goggles, and a ping-pong paddle on his back jumped into the ring. Next up is the amazing Uchiha Obito. I'm gonna crush my opponent. I won't lose to Kakashi. But with that, Obito puffed out his chest, put his hands on his hips, tilted his chin up, and closed his eyes, striking a pose. I'm so cool, so cool. I've been planning this super dramatic entrance forever. This is gonna be awesome. Rin's gonna fall for me for sure when she sees this. Obito thought happily, not noticing everyone around him giving him weird looks. Rin Noera just shook her head and sighed. Cough, cough. Ino Yamanaka, copying Gecko, put a hand to her forehead and coughed repeatedly. Akiyama Shinsuke, looking resigned, seemed to agree that Uchiha Obito was ready, so he announced, from Class B, Mitarashi Enko. Enko, you have to teach this guy a lesson for us. Uchiha Obito's escape artistry was making the other students uncomfortable. Everyone grabbed Mitarashi Enko and told her to make him pay, so Enko reluctantly agreed and hopped into the ring. Meanwhile, Kakugi was lost in the system's interface. Right after the fight with Kakashi Hatake, a message had popped up. Ding! You have finished a battle with your opponent. Do you want to copy their skills? 1 time per day. Thinking about Kakashi's abilities, Kakugi started to drool. Kakashi was only held back by his underdeveloped body. He already knew skills that most Chunin didn't. Kakugi clicked yes without hesitation. Time to turn this bike into a motorcycle. Kakugi thought. Please don't be a mask maker or a late bloomer. Ding! Successfully copied skill, basic white Fang sword technique. Kakugi barely contained his excitement. Finally. A useful skill. As a well-known swordsmanship, White Fang style was way better than basic stuff. It was the difference between a rare skill and a common one. Remembering Kakashi's dangerous, precise sword movements, Kakugi got hyped. Kakugi couldn't be happier. He felt like he had struck gold. Now he just needed to get his dad to give him that dagger. Kakugi was busy exploring the system, and the fight nearby was getting intense, or rather, Obito was getting pummeled. Facing Mitarashi Enko's fast and furious attacks, Uchiha Obito could only defend, quickly getting overwhelmed. Chapter 8 Reckless Obito. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Obito Uchiha, already disgraced, got slammed by Enko Matarai again. He tumbled a couple of times, ending up at the edge of the training field, his back to Kakugi. Ha! Gotcha! Obito shouted, getting up and striking a triumphant pose. My uncle's been setting this up. We're putting some distance between us. Now, check out my special moves. Obito was all talk, but his hands were a blur, going through a rapid series of hand seals. Snake. Ox. Monkey. Boar. Horse. Tiger. Obito finished with the Een seal, straining to gather chakra in his throat. A burst of intense fire chakra was about to explode. Crap. As soon as Obito started the seals, Akiyama Shinsuke and Yamada Ino sensed trouble. They knew exactly what was coming and charged onto the field. Huh. Enko Matarai, who had been listening to Obito's trash talk with a blank expression, suddenly saw him start weaving signs. She just stood there, clueless about what was about to hit her. Fire style, fireball jutsu. A stream of orange-red flames erupted from Obito's mouth, coalescing into a large, oval fireball. Whoa! Just as he was unleashing the flames, Obito took a massive blow to the back. He face-planted into the dirt, and the chakra in his throat vanished instantly. The huge fireball, about to fully form, fizzled out. Obito, spitting mud, glared back at Kazuoki, who was retracting his right leg. Umino Kazuoki, what the heck? You sucker punched me. What are you trying to pull? Kakugi walked slowly onto the stage, glaring at Obito. Were you trying to kill your classmate, Obito Uchiha? That if this were a battle between graduating students, Kakugi wouldn't say a word, but this was just a practice match for first-year students. A C-rank jutsu like the fireball jutsu was way too dangerous for ninja students who had only just learned to gather chakra and use kunai, and who had zero combat experience. I was just... Obito's face turned beet red, but before he could snap back, Akiyama Shinsuke smacked him upside the head. Shut your mouth, you moron. Akiyama Shinsuke grabbed Obito and hauled him up, then turned to Yamada Ino. I'm so sorry, Mr. Yamada. Please take over the rest of the practice. Then, through gritted teeth, he muttered, I need to have a serious talk with my student. Akiyama Shinsuke dragged Obito away, who was kicking and screaming the whole way. Noera Lin watched them go, her brow furrowed with concern. Yamada Ino led the shaken-up Enko Matarai to the sidelines to calm down. After a lengthy delay, the practice matches resumed. Kakugi and Obito hadn't really crossed paths before. All he knew about Obito was that he went to the wrong classroom on the first day, and that he was a bit of a goofball. Now, it seemed more accurate to describe him as an idiot. A clueless, dangerous idiot. Being an idiot was one thing, but being so naive that you put your teammates in danger. That was unforgivable. Kakugi was still fuming about Obito's stunt. As she regained her composure, Anko Matarai hesitantly walked over to Kakugi and tugged at the edge of his shirt. Kakugi turned to see Anko with a flushed face. She shuffled her feet, drawing circles in the dirt. "Thanks for saving me today, Kakugi. I'll treat you to some dango after school."
What?
Kakugi stared at her, bewildered. What was going on here?
Cough, cough.
Moonlight Hayate coughed pointedly, looking at Kakugi and Anko with a hint of envy. Kids in the ninja world sure grew up fast. The wheels of time turned, and 2 years zipped by. Umino Kakugi was now 8 years old. A lot had happened. At the end of their first year, Kakashi Hatake applied for early graduation and aced it. Noera Lin, always enthusiastic, organized a farewell party, inviting all their classmates. Kakugi still remembered the look of disgust plastered on Obito's face at the time. The very next day, Obito put in his own application for early graduation. It was promptly rejected. Since Kakugi was the only student who had ever beaten Kakashi at the ninja school, many classmates encouraged him to apply for early graduation as well. Kakugi's response was a simple, "Yeah, right." He knew his own limitations. The only reason he'd won against Kakashi was thanks to a lucky surprise attack. He still had a long way to go in terms of raw power, especially his ninjutsu skills. Umino Ikkaku, worried about his son, strongly advised him that it was still too early to rush graduation. Kakugi, who had no intention of applying in the first place, humbly agreed and used the opportunity to ask his father for some private ninjutsu lessons. But judging from his father's reluctance, Kakugi suspected that war was on the horizon. Sure enough, when Kazuoki was just past his 7th birthday, war broke out. Kyuubi village, which had been building up its strength, didn't team up with Konoha as the 3rd Hokage had hoped. Instead, they quietly sent agents to infiltrate Konoha, trying to kidnap the 9-tailed Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Kushina. After Namake's Minato intervened, they tested Konoha's strength with a sneak attack. Konoha immediately mobilized for war, sending a large number of ninjas to the Kyuubi front. The fighting went on for months. Namake's Minato, with his devastating Flying Thunder God technique, earned the nickname the Yellow Flash on the battlefield. He even held his own in a 2-on-1 fight against the AB combo of the Cloud Village. After that battle, the other ninja villages started spreading the word: if you encounter Namake's Minato, just abort the mission. Namake's Minato was a legend. His reputation even reached the Ninja Academy. The younger students were completely in awe. Many young ninjas started clamoring to follow in the footsteps of Namake-sama and submitted applications for early graduation. Uchiha Obito was the loudest of them all. In the end, only Obito and Noera Rin passed. But they didn't get their wish of joining Minato's team. Instead, they were assigned to different ninja squads, doing D-rank missions like weeding, and learning the fundamentals. After all, Konoha wasn't desperate enough to throw academy students into the meat grinder. Not yet. But that might change soon. Kakugi thought. The Third Ninja War was just getting started. Chapter 9 Iruka Enrollment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ever since a conversation with his dad 2 years back, Kadaki felt this need to get stronger, like ASAP. So, he's been picking the brains of his classmates, especially Asuma and Metkai, who are seriously powerful. He stopped holding back and started trying to win every single competition. Tsunoki lit a fire under Metkai, who's now training even harder than before. Asuma started hitting people up for outside help all the time. Every time he learned a new ninjutsu, he'd show it off to Kazuoki, but before long, Kazuoki would learn it himself during their sparring sessions. When the 3rd Hokage heard about Kazuoki's ability to learn ninjutsu in battle, he just sighed, that kid's got some scary fighting talent. Before long, Umino Tsunoki's reputation as a genius and a sparring maniac spread throughout the village. Umino Tsunoki, now 8 years old, has the following stats: Host, Umino Tsunoki, overall combat strength, C. Chakra level, 1.5 calories, attributes, wind, water, fire, earth, yang, copies available, 1. Over the past 2 years, thanks to physical development, relentless training, and, well, borrowing from others, his chakra level has gone up quite a bit, aside from a few tricks he picked up from his parents. He learned a lot of his skills from Asuma, Metkai, and other classmates. Take taijutsu, for instance. The ninja school students mostly know the basics, but with enough copying, Kakugi's elementary taijutsu has leveled up into intermediate taijutsu. Same goes for chakra attributes. He copies those in battle too. And he's especially grateful to Asuma for the fire attribute chakra. Even so, Kakugi felt like his progress had hit a wall. I mean, sure, there are a lot of students at the ninja school, but he can only copy 1 skill per day, and the overall quality of the students isn't exactly top-notch. Even if he can copy life skills, the ninjutsu, taijutsu, and everything else are mostly just basic stuff. Kakumu is wondering if he should apply for early graduation and hit the battlefield to borrow more skills. It's freshman admission time again. Kakugi took 5-year-old Iruka to the ninja school to register with their parents. Hey, big bro, are you, like, a total badass at school? Iruka looked up at Kakugi, totally impressed. Gao Ban, Furukawa, and the other kids I play ninja games with say you're a genius. Oh, it's no big deal, haha. Kazuoki started to say, trying to be modest with everyone staring. Suddenly, he felt a powerful force shove its way in, standing between him and his mom. It was Anko Matarai. Anko was holding her mom's arm, giving them a sweet smile. She said to Iruka, yeah, Kakugi's not just the #1 genius in the ninja school, he's also a famous sparring maniac. He never takes it easy, even on his sister. She rubbed her head against her mom's arm, looking all innocent. Their mom, Xiaojun, patted Anko's head and frowned. Kakumu, be nice to girls. Tsunoki, ever since Kakuzu saved Anko during that ninja fight, Anko's been clinging to him. Every so often, she invites him out for 3-flavored dango. Her childish behavior nearly freaked Kazumu out, considering how familiar he was with the older Anko. Later, Anko slowly went back to her old self and joked around with Kakugi like before, but the way Anko looked at him was the same way Rin looked at Kakashi, and Obito looked at Rin. Their classmates started to notice. Even Hayate Gecko saw them together and coughed, all jealous-like, and every time Mom picked up Kakumu from school, Anko would happen to be there. She always greeted them enthusiastically, and Mom started to really like this cheerful little girl. Kakumu wasn't gonna lie, he was touched by Anko's feelings. He enjoyed hanging out with her, too. But looking at his little arms and legs and everything else that wasn't fully grown, Kakugi just wanted to complain. Are all the kids in the ninja world this mature? Like always, there were lines at the school gate, waiting for the teachers to test the kids. Even though a lot of the kids coming to school had never learned how to use chakra, the school still had ways to tell if they had what it took to learn chakra control, taijutsu, ninjutsu, and genjutsu. If they didn't make the cut, they'd have to wait like Meki to see if there was an opening on the waiting list. No surprise, Iruka got in. Umino ruffled Iruka's hair and gave him a thumbs up. Be a strong ninja, Iruka. Little Iruka was totally moved. What a dork. Kakugi shook his head and went into the school. Morning was for cultural classes, stuff about ninja common sense. Kakumu knew all this stuff already, thanks to his parents. At noon, Kakugi eagerly went up to Metkai to spar. After beating him with the Konoha whirlwind he copied from him, he copied one of Metkai's skills, primary enlightenment. Kakugi, you're so strong. The Konoha whirlwind you learned from me is even better than mine. You could totally beat my eternal rival Kakashi. I'm gonna train even harder so I don't lose to you. Metkai gave him a thumbs up, flashing his teeth. Yeah. You too, I like you, Kai. Kakumu, now that he just copied that skill, was trying it out. Afternoon was for field exercises. Jiamu knew the ropes and passed the test without any problems. After school, Kazuoki walked Iruka home. Big bro, can you carry me? Iruka asked, looking sad. Kazuoki ruffled Iruka's hair, smiled, and put his little brother on his back. Iruka swung his legs on either side of Kazuoki, humming and smiling. After a bit, Iruka asked, "Big bro, what's wrong?" "Nothing." When he got home, he put his brother down, went inside, took off his shoes, said hi to his parents, washed his hands, sat at the table, and waited for dinner. Didn't say a word the whole time. Umino Xiaojin, who came over with the food, looked at Kazuoki, confused. Umino Kazuo had been staring at Kazuoki since he walked in the door, and now he smiled. "Eat, wash dishes, clear the table." Umino wiped his lips, flopped down on the couch, grabbed the newspaper, and covered half his face. Kazuoki took a deep breath, walked up to Umino Ikkaku, and said, "Dad, I want to graduate early." "Okay." Umino Ikkaku put down the newspaper, sat up, leaned forward, stared at Kazuoki, grinned, and said with sharp eyes, "Are you ready?" Chapter 10 Battle against Umino Ikkaku. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It was already dark, with a bright moon and only a few stars out. Konoha's training ground 10 was a small area nestled among woods and grasslands. Umino Ikkaku stood in the open, turned to face Kazuoki, and smiled slightly. "We had a deal, right? If you can land a hit on me, I'll approve your early graduation. Come on, show me what you've got." "Okay." Kazuoki said, quickly making 3 hand seals. Wind style, sand cloud jutsu. A huge amount of chakra gathered in Kazuoki's throat, and a cloud of sand and dust burst from his mouth. It spread rapidly, instantly filling the entire field of vision, enveloping both Kazuoki and Umino Ikkaku. Kazuoki had learned this ninjutsu from Asuma. It was a wind-style technique, but not a very powerful one, and it barely had any offensive power. Its main purpose was to obscure the enemy's vision and reduce visibility. Asuma had mentioned that there was a more advanced version, wind-style, wind-dust technique. The sand cloud jutsu that Kazuoki used was really just a cloud of dust. The wind-dust technique was more like a full-blown sandstorm. "Trying to block my vision, huh?" Umino Ikkaku stood relaxed, ignoring the breeze at his ears, tapping his kunai with his index finger. "Where's your attack coming from, kid?" A figure leapt out of the dust. Umino glanced around, surprised, and quickly realized what was happening. Much more solid than a regular clone. But still just a clone. Umino Ikkaku rushed forward and with a swing of his hand, the clone was cut down. Another figure appeared from the dust. Umino glanced at it. Another clone. After easily disposing of the clones, 2 more figures emerged. Yep, more clones. This isn't going to work on a jonin. Umino Ikkaku muttered, "Don't disappoint me too much, Kazuoki." Crap, he saw through it. Kazuoki, hiding in the grass, looked frustrated. He thought his clone technique was pretty good. In normal ninja school matches, it always worked. Guess he was still too green. His plan was to use the wind style, sand cloud jutsu to blind his dad, then use the clones to distract him, make him think Kazuoki was right in front of him. While the clones held his attention, Kazuoki would use the body flicker technique to quickly circle behind him, draw his ninja sword, find an opening, and attack. But the plan fell apart the second his dad saw through the clone trick. Kazuoki had already used the body flicker technique to get behind his dad, but saw no opening to attack and was forced to hide in the grass. These tricks might work on inexperienced genin. But a jonin was a jonin, and Umino had seen it all. Umino Ikkaku wasn't fooled by the clone feints. He calmly waited, seemingly unguarded, but there was no way to get through his defenses. No more clones were coming out of the dust to feint. If they waited any longer, the dust would settle. Time to force the issue. Plan A failed, time for Plan B. Kazuoki burst from the grass, rapidly forming hand seals in mid-air as he landed behind Umino Ikkaku. Water style, raging water. A powerful stream of water erupted from Kazuoki's mouth. The large amount of water formed a small pool when it hit near Umino. Umino Ikkaku jumped to avoid it, and the water slammed into the ground, carving out a small depression and splashing water everywhere. Not done yet. After using the water style, Kazuoki immediately began forming seals again. Landing in the pool, he almost finished his next ninjutsu. Fire style, fireball jutsu. An orange fireball roared towards Umino Kazuo, who easily dodged it once more. Kazuoki shook his head. He didn't expect it to be that easy, but he had prepared for this. His goal wasn't to end the fight with a single ninjutsu. The fireball hit the water, making a hissing sound as the water began to evaporate. A cloud of smoke and steam rose from the contact point, quickly spreading through the air. The dust had barely settled, and now it was replaced by steam. Trying to blind me again? Umino Ikkaku waited for Kazuoki's next surprise attack. No. If it's just to cover your vision, wouldn't it have been easier to just use wind style, sand cloud jutsu? Umino Ikkaku suddenly realized. There's more to this. After releasing the fireball jutsu, Kazuoki kept making hand seals at lightning speed. With his natural gift for chakra, he was like a one-man army. Wind style, great breakthrough. Massive amounts of wind chakra gathered in his mouth and burst out, creating a howling gust of wind. The force of the wind made the trees on both sides shake, carrying steam and scattered sparks towards Umino. The raging water, fireball, and great breakthrough were the most powerful ninjutsu that Kazuoki knew. These 3 moves in a row were a tactic he had planned in advance. If one strike missed, he'd follow up with another, and another after that. Releasing 3 ninjutsu in quick succession would have the same effect as a combination of ninjutsu. Well, that's some pretty impressive chakra control, Umino said admiringly, raising one hand to form a seal. Water style, water wall jutsu. The wind slammed into the wall of water, causing it to ripple violently. The high temperature was also evaporating the water. Umino narrowed his eyes and poured in more chakra. Finally, the wind subsided in front of the wall, the smoke cleared, and the wall remained unbroken. Standing firm in front of Umino, Kazuoki, who had released several powerful ninjutsu in a row, gasped for air and sighed. This is what it's like to fight a jonin. Dad wasn't holding back, he was practically surrendering. From the start, Dad let him attack first, and watched him make his seals. He didn't bother dispelling the sand cloud jutsu. After seeing through the clone feint, he just sat back and waited to see what he'd do. After watching him unleash 3 ninjutsu, he finally used his first ninjutsu of the battle. So far, Kazuoki had used 4 ninjutsu, while his dad had used only 1. In terms of chakra consumption, Kazuoki was completely outmatched. This fight was just a test, and the gap between them was huge. Man, jonin are scary.